What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to Straight Facts, a sports show that educates and entertains. Once again, I'm your boy, James Jackson, Kyle Sirik over there, Jake Galley over there, and Jake, hold on, Jake Puma fam today, man. Jake got the pause on today. Official, unofficial
I'm
Puma
balled
fam.
up, man. I'm the
Yeah,
Puma
by the
man.
way, I got him that shirt, y'all. So you know what I mean? I put my people on. I put my people on to what's good.
I think you were there when I bought it. I don't know if you.
I
if
put you on. You wouldn't have
bought
ran
it.
the Puma if it wasn't for me. We ran up a
You
bag.
probably
real quick.
did put me on. I give you that. I give you
Yeah,
that.
you know what
Did
I
you
mean?
pay for it though?
Nah, he paid for it. But he left it at my house and I had to deliver it back to him. So I gave it to him at one point.
Good memory. You got a good memory.
I got a good memory. Kyle is actually his last show before he undergoes surgery. So first of all, from us and everybody listening, wish you a successful surgery tomorrow, my guy. You about to go under and get an operation, but he's still with us, battling with us the day before. So we absolutely appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
So how did this happen again?
How did this
happen again?
I was lifting and I just tore my labrum. I was an idiot. I was like feeling really good on the bench press. I'm like, yeah, 6 sets, 7 sets, I could do that. And I'm on like the 7th set for no reason. And I'm at the top and just falls out.
Man, yeah. I mean, sometimes you have a good day at the gym. You mean you want to carry out the vibration.
Too good of a day. I'm gonna stretch a little less next time, maybe.
What BJ Armstrong said? You had a moment. You had a moment in the gym, and this is what happens. But we're gonna keep it going.
4 months.
The same crew you're used to hearing, and you're used to hearing us talk about the NBA playoffs, and we're not going to divvy up any from it right now. Conference finals talk still. My Suns versus the LA Clippers, the Atlanta Hawks versus the Milwaukee Bucks. Both series are shaping out in ways people really kind of didn't expect, especially in the Eastern Conference. But we'll start with the Western Conference, the Suns and the Bucks. This time we're going to Jake for the facts and lay it out, because this one is really what is the adjustment to the adjustment. Now the focal point is back on the Suns after the Clippers win Game 5 and force a Game 6 back in LA. So, Jake, what's the adjustment to the adjustment that the Suns got to make? I need the facts on what's going on.
So, and this is actually something that I've been paying attention to. Two of the guys on the night betting show for Odyssey are like super, super sharp, analytical thinking guys when it comes to looking at rotations for the NBA, figuring out how to bet, and something they've been shouting from the rooftops. The Clippers need to bench Ivica Zubac. They say that they are way better off when he does not play. It gives them better matchups, and that's what we saw play out in Game 5. Clippers take that one 116-102, and it was really a game where we saw DeAndre Ayton completely fade away. So part of that was because the Clippers went to a 5-out offense. No one in the paint. Ayton's on the perimeter guarding someone. And in this series, when you look at the defensive rating on-off for Ivica Zubac, they are 17.5 points better with him off the court than they are on it. Marcus Morris, who took his place, he's not the best, but in terms of his defensive rating, they are 6.8 better with Morris off than on. So he's a better alternative, and we saw that play out, posting up in the corner, forcing Ayton to come out to the perimeter. Ayton, when he's guarding Zubac, it's about for 26 possessions per game in this series, and Zubac is not succeeding in those possessions. 45.5% field goal percentage when being guarded by Ayton, and now that he wasn't guarded by Ayton, now that it was Marcus Morris who was being guarded by Ayton, the Clippers were able to attack one-on-one on offense, and that showed up in the two-point percentage, shooting percentage 66.7 inside the arc in Game 5 for the Clippers. No Ayton down low to come in, block shots. There was only one block shot by the Suns that game. So that's really what we look at when we talk about the facts. James, as a Suns fan, what was your take on the game?
That Marcus Morris 22 points hit so differently. Like I felt every single one of those 22 points, and it was one of those games, one of the only few games in the playoffs where the other team's others beat the Suns' others. Like their Reggie Jacksons and their Marcus Morrises and their Nick Batums outplayed our Mikal Bridges and our Jay Crowders. Not really our Cam Johnsons, because Cam Johnson is like, shooting like 85% from the field or something crazy in the last 3 games.
Yeah.
No, he's literally hooping something crazy. But even still, like their others have outplayed our others, and that's really what it is. And in the midst of Chris Paul taking this layoff and not really having his bearings about him yet. Devin Booker kind of struggling a little bit in this series. DeAndre Ayton being minimized. Like the latter parts of the series are now starting to go towards the Clippers, and them going small, Jake, is exactly what I see. Like the same pattern you see is the exact one that I see, because on the offensive end, Marcus Morris steps out and plays the perimeter. DeAndre Ayton can guard a center out there. He did his best to guard Jokic out there, and he held his own. But not a small forward by nature, not someone who's a slasher by nature who's quick laterally. You're not supposed to guard somebody out there, which not only takes DeAndre out to the ocean, but it leaves no rebounding under the rim, and now second chance opportunities happen. So they can live without Zubac. We've seen teams go to this small ball lineup in the playoffs, and it's worked so many times. Miami did it last year in the bubble. The Warriors are famous for the Hamptons lineup for putting Andre Iguodala or Draymond Green at the 5 and running small ball there. Like when you can neutralize someone's big man like that and they don't have an answer, it really helps your team. The Clippers are doing that right now, and I'm terrified of a Game 7. Like I really need the Clippers to close it out tonight, or the Suns to close it out tonight. Full disclosure, we're recording Wednesday at about 5:30, 6 o'clock. So by the time this drops, that game will have been played, and I'm hoping by the time y'all hear us tomorrow morning or this morning, whenever you're listening, that either know I'm down bad because I'm terrified of Game 7, or I'm so relieved because we won Game 6, because I do think we let it get off the rails if we don't win tonight in LA.
Yep. I think what happened too, we talk about the adjustment to the adjustment, right? I think Ty Lue just overreacted. We saw DeAndre Ayton have a big Game 1. Marcus Morris, that's the least amount of minutes he's played in the past 2 series because he thought he had to have Zubac out there, and Cousins actually got a lot of minutes. And I'm not going to lie, I was kind of on board with that until you look back that Marcus Morris never played himself off the court. Game 5 and 6 against the Jazz in the last series, he was a huge reason why they won, especially the game without Kawhi. I mean, I think he had 24 and 25 back-to-back. Obviously, Paul George stepped up, Reggie Jackson, blah, blah, blah. But Marcus Morris never actually played bad. He maybe had a bad game here or there, but he's ready for his spot again, and he's showing it. I was big on him on the last pod, and then, he was only playing 20 minutes a game. But if you can do that, like the defensive rating for Zubac was that low, and you could do that, and Ayton doesn't kill you offensively, I don't know why you switch to that. And on the Sun side, my question is, what is the adjustment? Because I don't feel like you take Ayton off the court.
No, not at all.
I don't think you can do that. So what has to happen here? Did they
you
run the offense more through Ayton?
Yeah,
get that mismatch down low, or what?
You use, just like the Clippers are using twin strength and putting him out and putting Ayton on an island, you got to use Ayton's strength and go back into the post and use your advantage. And that's your size, your height. I know Ayton doesn't really have a post bag to go to, but now you can just use your size and your stature and be the biggest man on the floor and go inside and then make them react to you. Like, they're going to have to make an in-game adjustment. So when they start doubling, that's when we have our shooters ready. Mikal in the corner, Cam Johnson in quarter, Jay Crowder hit a big bucket. Then you start putting Twin in the high pick and roll and start making a guard now switch onto DeAndre Ayton too. Like you got to start using DeAndre Ayton's stature to the Suns' best ability. That's how you offset that.
Yeah. And Ayton really, I mean, you guys know, because I've talked about it on here before, like, I have many reasons to defend DeAndre Ayton. I picked him first in my dynasty draft.
Puma fam too. Puma fam.
I mean, there are many reasons, and I'm well studied, I will say, in DeAndre Ayton's game, and his emergence has been amazing this playoffs. I will not take that away from him, but his deficiencies in his first couple years are going to show up if they keep running this small lineup, because DeAndre Ayton is a play finisher. He is a guy who runs the pick and roll. He'll set a hard screen and roll hard to the basket. And if you give him a good pass, he's putting it home at a 70% clip. Like, he is, and with Chris Paul, like, that's exactly the type guy you want. But with Chris Paul, I'm going to say he's still a little banged up. He's looking a little shaky baby out there. I got to say it. Chris Paul is looking a little shaky. 2 for 16 from 3-point. That needs to come up. That's that's not really an adjustment. He just can't shoot that poorly. But with Ayton, if you could put him on the post and isolate against Marcus Morris, you're going to eat all day. But the problem is that's not a play that he is adept at. Like you said, he has no bag. I don't want to go Kwame Brown rant on him, but he has no post move that he is committed to memory.
Yeah, like, you know what he's great at? He is like a younger, more I don't want to say more spry. He's a little different, but he's like Clint Capella with Chris Paul and the Rockets, where
Like
the
DJ,
best use
like
for
prime
him,
DJ.
yeah, high pick and roll. And when you get DeAndre Ayton going downhill, he's so hard to stop, and he's good finishing around the rim. He doesn't have a move in the post to get to, but let him go downhill, jump over or around somebody. He pretty good finishing around the rim. But here's the thing, Jake. I don't mind you calling Chris Paul's performance, shaky, even though he's a little banged up, doesn't seem to be completely right. I don't mind you saying it, because Kyle, when you asked me what's the big adjustment the Suns got to make, my man's got to step up a little bit. Yep. Like you know what legacy's on the line. He said it when they won Game 4. I don't want to talk about 3-1. So you're aware what's on the line here. And after we gave you all that praise for the first 2 series, battling through an injury, getting your team here, like we got to make our money a little bit now. Like we got to him and Devin Booker. It's quiet the noise time, because game 7 is anybody's ball game in any sport. Like you still have an upper hand. You are still the top seed right now. It's a quiet the noise game. It really is. Like I'm really looking for Chris Paul to step up. Like I need it to be a Chris Paul game, honestly. I need it to be one of those memorable ones.
I really think we might see it. Because
I'm hoping, man.
Honestly,
I'm hoping, man.
He came back Game 3, didn't have a good game. Came back Game 4, didn't have a good game. Game 5, he played all right. He didn't make it 3, 0 for 6 from 3, but
15 and 12, not bad, right? 15 and 12, not bad, right? Something like that.
No, this was the 22 and 8.
22 and
the
8.
22 and 8 last game. Yeah, and he didn't shoot poor percentage, given that he couldn't make a 3 all around. He didn't turn the ball over too much. He looked a lot better. The one thing I'll say about Chris Paul, though, in terms of injury, I'm not going to really give him that crutch. I mean, he played well towards the end of last series, comes back off of COVID, not an actual injury. I mean, maybe an actual injury, but I'm going to say not an actual injury. And
I know what you mean.
I think he should be playing a little bit better.
Right. He got his 2 games. He got his 2, warm up games, get back into it. He really shouldn't even be given a second game, but the public perception is he's still getting back in this. Now it's like you're back, you've got your runs in. There's no more excuses.
I fully expect him to do something tonight for sure.
I need it.
So one thing, and this is my prediction on the adjustment, the most notable adjustment, or maybe at least what I would do. You have Paul George, who is a horrendous post-up defender. This year, he's allowed 1.33 points per possession on post-ups. The max is 2. Well, I guess 3. I don't know if they count the end one, but the max is 2. If you shoot 50%, you're averaging 1 point per possession. So he is allowing 1.33. What I would assume is they're going to run Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges through a lot of off-ball screens to try and get that switch. They pop out to the corner. They either get an open look, or they then have the switch with Paul George on DeAndre Ayton, and you feed it down low once you cycle the ball to them in the corner. Like, that is the way that you have to attack them. Even if Ayton isn't that great of a post-up player, and even if it's Morris that they're able to stick on him and maybe they can't get the switch, like, you foul Marcus Morris or put him in foul trouble. Now what do they do? I don't know if Zubac is available. I'll have to look. But, like, you're in trouble after – if Zubac isn't playing, you're in trouble after Marcus Morris defensively. So that's what I would
I mean, here's the thing. Even if Zubac is available, Ty Lue isn't afraid to – like, when he makes an adjustment and it works, he doesn't feel the need to bounce back. Like, he found it. Like Marcus Morris is my hot hand. I'm riding my hot hand. And speaking of hot hands, have we not talked about Reggie Jackson yet? Because that man has been a menace for me this entire series. And it's not a flash in the pan. It's not a flash in the pan. Like, it wasn't just the Jazz series that he's doing this. He's been doing it, and now is filling the Kawhi void. And the Kawhi void for them, maybe not necessarily giving you all the dominance that Kawhi gives you, but when there are times when Paul George isn't this playoff P. There's these stretches where Paul George is missing buckets. And in those stretches, Reggie Jackson is hitting big-time buckets, making electrifying plays. I mean, the steal and the dunk last game to seal it, like that's all I needed to see. So Reggie Jackson is really putting his stamp on this series, and he's been the X factor. Like, a lot of people are giving Paul George his props, and as they should, as we probably should. We did last show. Kyle made sure we did that.
Yes, sir.
But we got to give Reggie Jackson the props as being the X factor in this series because it's
100%.
he has been the engine for this Clippers team, and right now it's something that the Suns can't really figure out. Like how do you stop Reggie Jackson?
Yeah, well, you want to talk about Chris Paul getting all this money in the offseason. Reggie Jackson just put his net worth up crazy in the playoffs. And you said it's not a flash in the pan. He's been shooting 50%. Or 49, but 50% basically this whole playoffs and has been that guy. You talk about that Kawhi void, obviously not going to give you Kawhi performances, but you need a guy to step up. Just like, the next series we're going to talk about needs someone to step up, but you need someone to step up, and Reggie Jackson has done that. I don't think that personally your focus should go to Reggie Jackson as a defense.
It's starting to though. Like a little of the focal points got to go to him.
The Clippers are playing really good team basketball. You need to find a way to shut, this flow that they have going on the offensive side down. Obviously, he is the point guard, but Paul George is still holding the highest usage rate on the series, I believe. So there's a lot more to go there, but I think it comes offensively for the Suns. Mikal Bridges isn't getting involved. He was a guy shooting 10 shots a game the past two series. He's shooting like 6.5, 7 right now this series. Not that you ask for him to score, but that tells me that your offense isn't working right. If Mikal's not finding these open threes, if Mikal's not, getting these shots up, then something's not working in this offense, especially when Chris Paul didn't play the first two games. I would have expected Mikal to shoot 13, 14 shots, but it's not the case.
I think, and it's really funny that Matt puts in the chat, like Reggie Jackson is the anti-Schroeder because there's like a report Dennis Schroeder's looking for $100 million this offseason.
Not no more. Not no more.
Reggie Jackson really just straight up like Thanos did Vision, ripped that market away from Dennis Schroeder. Like Schroeder was going to be like
out his forehead. Yeah,
straight out the forehead with his money. Yeah, like that's my bag now, buddy. I'll be the attacking veteran guard on a championship team.
Yep.
What you normally see in sports is like, especially in football, you'll see like someone get paid and they set the market. Like, all right, I got the next contract coming up. I'm going to get this much, probably more. Reggie Jackson like set the high end of this, Dennis Schroeder role because they do fill the same roles. It's funny to see someone lose money on this.
I've never seen someone set the market before they actually hit free agency. Like Reggie Jackson is now the barometer which we're judging free agents, and we haven't even hit free agency yet.
If Schroeder gets paid before Reggie Jackson, I'll be very surprised.
No.
Very surprised.
Can't happen.
Teams are, because first of all, most teams that have that money are going to be looking at Reggie Jackson first. And then what if you pay Schroeder the same amount of money and Reggie Jackson was there for the same amount of money and you just realize you overpaid? So I wouldn't be surprised.
It's going to be interesting for sure what they both go for.
I was trying to agree with you that Reggie Jackson is going to get paid first. You got to. It's a what sports in general is. What have you done for me lately? Like I get the idea of Dennis Schroeder might still be better than the idea of Reggie Jackson, but my last sample size has Reggie Jackson popping off and Dennis Schroeder not flopping. So
Schroeder for the whole season too.
Yeah, so Reggie really since he said it, he was actually doing fine before he said it, and he said that. And basketball guys, that's how you know basketball gods exist. Because he said that, and they were like, do you really want us to show you what your real worth is? Because we can do that. We can show you what you're actually going to make. You don't do that to yourself. We're going to move to the Eastern Conference because we got a 2-2 series all of a sudden now. The Hawks won Game 4 to tie it up 2-2. Giannis Antetokounmpo might have had almost the most scary serious injury of all time. If you guys didn't see it, run the clip back. But he goes up for a left-handed layup. And he lands right on Clint Capella's shoe, and his knee bends backwards. It just human knees aren't supposed to go like that. I'll put it that way. It looked like like the DreamWorks moon, but backwards, and it's just not so. Absolutely.
Where do you pull these references from?
Dog, it's just not supposed to look like that. But all in all, it is a tied series. Kyle, give us the facts on that series because once again, Atlanta finds themselves in a situation people did not expect them in.
I do want to give the update on that because it came through like right as we hit record. Giannis is doubtful for the next game, but like as you said it, like we got to find consistency here. Only one game out of these 4 have been decided by single digits. Both teams have a 20-point loss this series, so someone has to find consistency. And I would doubt that both do. So the team that finds it probably is going to win this series. On the Bucks side, I mean, you just lost 22. You lost by 22 in a game against the Trae Young-less Hawks. They didn't even have him. You can't lose that game, but they need to stop forcing threes. Both their losses, they shot under 25% from three. Their wins, 35% around for both of them, which, isn't a great percentage. But when you look at it, they're actually shooting more threes on average in those losses. And if the percentage is that bad, I know this is a good 3-point shooting team. It tells me they're forcing threes. If you're shooting more and making a lot less, you're forcing a lot of threes here. And this is a Giannis-led team. Stick to the game plan. Like, if your superstar player is this facilitate, I know, it's funny talking about bags. We talk about Giannis has no bag. That's the Twitter meme.
No bag.
But that is the offense. Like, he should do it and kick, and maybe Drew Holiday can find something. But going off of that, it's a Giannis-led team, and someone needs to step up. There are 2 wins. We saw Middleton, but he's been super quiet in the losses. We saw Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez in game 2 step up. They have not done a single thing since. And what was it that Matt always says? As Middleton goes, the Bucks go. He's 17 points per game on 31% shooting in the Bucks' 5 playoff losses. Also 15% from 3 there. Horrible. And in the 10 playoff wins they have, it's 25 points per game on 50% shooting and not 19 or not 15% for 3. It's 43%. So as Middleton goes, the Bucks go. So he probably is the one to step up. I'm still looking at Drew Holiday. I know he has it in him. And on the Hawks side, it's getting these guys involved that you don't think of. Lou Williams is the one for me because I saw it last night, obviously, but we saw it in the Sixers game 5, and then they didn't play him. I personally think Lou Williams has to play. They haven't lost the playoff game where he shot at least 9 times. He's shooting 46%, 48% from 3. I mean, how don't you play this guy, especially after what he did last night? And they have to get John Collins involved. He's the only bright side of these Hawks losses, yet he shot the 4th and 5th most shots in both of those games. I think of John Collins as the second best player on the Hawks. Some don't, but I can't put him past 3. He needs to get in there, shooting 59% on the series, yet we have no offense running through him. So some team needs to change up, find this consistency at the end of the day, because both teams have looked great and both teams have looked horrible in this series, and it's going to be the one that looks great for the next 3 games that wins it all.
And here's where, especially for the Hawks side, but a little bit for the Bucks, but for the Hawks side, here's where we have to kind of extrapolate the numbers or look a little like in between the numbers a little bit, because I'm going to guess a lot of those stats, like, is game 4 included for the Hawks. And when you're without Trae Young, when you're without literally the guy who drives your entire offense, your offense is you're going to scrape for points. And they even won by 20, and their offense still wasn't running as it should run. You don't have, John Collins isn't getting the ball because he's not in these high pick and rolls, getting it, catching it off a lob or off a roll from Trae Young. You don't have guys getting it, kickouts in the corner where they normally do. You don't have guys in their normal spots because the guy who literally has the ball 40% of the time in your offense isn't there. But it's wild that they still pulled out this 20-point victory. And don't get it twisted. For those who didn't watch the game, the Hawks were running away with this before Giannis got injured. Giannis got injured and then went off the rails. But this game was starting to get bad while Giannis was still in the game. Yep. Giannis went out in the third quarter. Like, this game was already almost out of reach. And it was still without Trae Young. So they found something.
It was a wire-to-wire victory. They started and they ended the game in the lead. They didn't give up the lead one time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't even understate it. That win is the biggest single game in Atlanta Hawk history. You lose Trae Young, and you guys have said it, 41.1% usage rate. And he's out of the game. And you are, as you said, spanking the Bucks with Giannis. Like, there is an element of it where, like, we are so statistical, logic oriented on this podcast. You start to get a feel. Sometimes. You start to get a feel. Maybe this is Atlanta's year. I picked against them. I don't think I picked against them the first round, but against Philly, against the Bucks. Whoever they play next, I'll probably pick against them again. It just seems like it's their year, though. Like, I don't understand. How do they win this game by 20 points?
It's crazy. It's crazy.
They had
you talk about.
Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
And you talk about, like, where it's statistical, logical. Like, that's where we lie on this show. And from that standpoint, you could chalk that up. Like, the Bucks had a fluke game, right? They had horrible percentages. Defense was bad against, and the horrible percentages against, by the way, not a great defensive team in the Hawks, but there's a point. You got to look at yourself. You're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Mm-hmm. Game 4, you got a 2-1 lead.
Talk to him.
I don't care. You're not allowed to have flukes. You're not. You are not allowed to have flukes on this stage, and you're going to get your ass beat by 20 if you do. Mm-hmm. I mean, without, like, fluke, statistical fluke, but it can't happen.
But it
I
can't
mean,
happen.
it's ridiculous because this is also a killer. This is a killer in this series. You just lost. They don't have their best player. Giannis is doubtful for the next game, and you just lost by 20.
And if
I don't know.
I'm Trey Young, my recovery process just speeded up a little bit. You got to smell blood in the water. And what has been the same theme from the Knicks to the Sixers till now with the Hawks? It's momentum. At some point, like I said, that this series was playing out the same way that the Sixers and the Knicks one was. They win game one. The other team comes back, takes the lead, and at some point in the middle of the series, game 4 or game 5, the Hawks seize momentum again, and they never let it go. And they just did it again last night. We all just watched them grab momentum again. And they ride momentum better than any team in this playoffs. And they literally have just done it again. So at this point, I can't be surprised if the Hawks win this series. And Kyle, to answer the original question, or to address the original point, one team needs to find consistency. Unfortunately, the Bucks find themselves again in a series that might be dictated by injuries. And then this time, they're on the opposite side. And that might be the only consistency one team needs to find is just get out of it healthy, because the healthier team might win this series. And if Trae Young comes back, the Hawks are healthy. They got Cam Reddish back, who's giving them a little spark plug too. Like they may win just because they're more healthy. No Giannis and no DiVincenzo. I don't know a series the Bucks win without that.
So I also, just before we move on, we should take note of the way that Atlanta and Phoenix are built, because Trae Young, John Collins, Kevin Huerter, Lou Williams, all of those guys for the Hawks are either on a rookie scale deal or a vet minimum, and you are getting plus production out of them. You look at Phoenix, Ayton, Campaign's on a minimum. You have Bridges, who's on a rookie scale. Like all across the team, you're getting great value because you're getting these guys on a rookie scale. And like, look around to Dallas. You want to know why people are getting fired over at Dallas? Because the head's got to roll, because Luka's about to be up on his. You have tarnished the value of having Luka in those first 4 on the rookie deal. You can go so far when you get that production out of guys like that. So I just think great job to James Jones and Travis Schlenk of Atlanta and Phoenix for building those teams.
And it's smart. You look at guys now that the nature of the sport of basketball now, these guys are playing, 100, 200 games a year, AAU. These guys are coming in. The primes are getting younger. And I'm not saying these guys are in their primes, but they're not, like, guys are more NBA ready now than they were before. A lot of guys, you won't see it in year 1, but year 2 and 3 we're seeing massive jumps, where back in the day, you're thinking of a prime being like 28, 29, 30. And some guys still have that, but you get players that are 23, 24 years old this day, still on their deals. For some of them, they're almost at their primes. I mean, I'm not saying Huerter and Collins are almost at their prime, but what more can you ask of them in this series and on this team right now?
So, but to wrap a bow on this whole discussion, let's paint the picture that both stars are out for these teams. Trae Young still can't give it a go. Giannis doesn't give it a go. And it's backups on backups, role players on role players. Who's got the advantage? Who wins the game? It's basically now Chris Middleton company versus John Collins and company. Who wins?
I actually think this helps Chris Middleton, like the way he is. Like when you let him take a lot of shots, he seems to do really well. But at the same thing, the point I made last week was that, the Hawks just got threats everywhere. 5 guys on the court at all times, it seems, can put the ball in the basket. And I said how the Bucks are running rotations with Connaughton and PJ Tucker. So unless Middleton drops a 45 ball, I don't think they have enough firepower to keep up without Giannis. While the Hawks' next man up mentality, it doesn't hurt as much losing Trae Young. So I would take the Hawks if both are out.
I will counter with Bobby Portis. Now it's not a huge jump, but it's been notable when he's coming off the bench after not playing in the first 2 games of the series, and now coming off the bench and giving you double-digit points and close to double-digit rebounds, I believe.
The problem, my fault for cutting you off, but the problem with that for me is that you're still going to have Tucker, Connaughton, Brooke Lopez, guys like that, Bryn Forbes, that just can't give you a consistent bucket in the offense. And like Bryn Forbes' offense these days is just like pull a random 3. Yeah. That doesn't help you as a team. While the Hawks really got it down that, I don't care who scores. Like Trae Young can take his shots here and now or then, but besides that, we're moving the ball around. if you have the open shot, take it. And most of them can make it. I just don't trust in the Bucks as much like that.
How have the Bucks
Even Portis? How much is Portis going to give you outside of like a good 6-minute stretch and a
13
possession here or there?
13-6 is what is you're ecstatic with a Bobby Portis 13-6.
Yeah.
But I don't know how the Bucks haven't made the Hawks pay for having half of Bogdanovich out there. Like I'm literally watching this man run around and he's gimping. He looks like a newborn baby deer. I'm like, how can you allow that in the Eastern Conference Finals? They literally aren't making him pay for it. Now, it's not hard when you stick him on PJ Tucker and he's just got to stand in the corner with PJ the whole time on offense, but you got to make him pay. The NBA is too skilled. The offense is too complex to not put them in some kind of pick and roll and get the matchup you want on them. Like it's easy enough to do. You got to exploit that.
Yep.
Especially when you said Bogdanovich is banged up. So is Trae Young when he's out there. Like Trae's had a couple injuries, and you have two guards who are big enough and strong enough to really take advantage of that. That's where I think probably the next adjustment will go. To answer your question, I would choose Milwaukee just based off the fact that Middleton and Holiday are better than the combination of, or theoretically better than the combination of like, who's John Collins, Bogdanovich, John Collins. I mean, take your pick of their Clint Capella, Gallinari, Herter. Like they're all kind of the same. Yeah. It's the Legion versus
on paper,
the top two.
That's my point. That's actually why I'm going with the Hawks. Strength in numbers. My mentality is when someone goes down, strength in numbers wins after that. When your top goes down,
can't fault you.
You can't rely on just the second best player and now the third best player to be the top two. Like it's not, you know what I mean? It's not an end of the bench player didn't go down. The fourth or fifth guy goes down. I can still just rely on my top two stars. This doesn't change the game plan. My number one goes out. Now I need everybody collectively to fill that void. I'm not looking for just 1 and 2 and then the rest fall back into place. I need everybody for that. I will take the Hawks if both Giannis and Trae Young don't go, but it looks like it's swinging that way.